Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, Spider-Woman, issue number 6. This was an otherwise really good book. Professor, what do you mean by otherwise? Well, I'll get into that. I'll get into a whole bunch of things. But I'm going to talk about a major problem that I had with this book that is not only personal, but it's also universal. What do I mean by that? First, credit where credit's due. Okay, so Carla Pacheco is the writer, Perry Perez on art, Frank D'Armata doing the colors, and VC's Travis Lanham doing the letters. Jung-Gun Yoon did the cover art, and Emma Lupacchino and Rachel Rosenberg did the variant cover. I'm pretty sure there's more than one variant cover out there. Did they do both of them? I don't know. Anyway, production design was by Anthony Gambino. So this book, first off, there's the foreword of the book, and then you turn the page, and then there's the recap of the book. Do we need both? No, you can read one or the other, or you could do what I do, and you could read them both because they were freaking awesome. And like the writing is so damn good in this book that even reading a foreword and a recap is still really fun for me. It's still really fun. Like I could read this whole book word for word, not bother speed reading through a moment of it, and enjoy everything that I'm reading. Talk about the art. Psh, come on, man. I'm sorry. Have you seen this book? This is amazing. And it's not just the idea that the panel layout is spectacular and the word balloon placing is so perfect that with both the panels and the word balloons, you may look at a page and be a moment intimidated like, oh, am I going to understand? Am I going to read the wrong thing and move ahead? Am I going to no, 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 no. While it may not look as though it is natural, the way that you're, or organic, the way that you're going to read the comic book, I promise you, you read it and your first guess is always going to be correct. Be it which word balloon you're going to read first and then next, and which panel you're going to read and then next. It is intuitive, it is amazing, and I cannot emphasize enough how freaking out of control good it is. Not to mention, this art is spectacular. A lot of this stuff happens off-world. So when I say this is out of this world, no, I really mean it. It's amazing artwork. Perry Perez, Frank D'Armata, these guys deserve all the credit in the world because what these guys are doing is just, bro, I'm saying, I'm saying, Perez needs to be recognized for the monster of art and panel layout that he is. Damn it, this is good. And maybe the editors need some credit too. I don't usually mention the editors, but yeah, dude, this is a very well-read, well-put-together book. And I've had some small interactions with Miss Pacheco online before, on Twitter before. And I love the idea that she was willing to put out, hey, so this is actually how certain things I said I loved, like, when when they do the thing with like multiple panels and there's just all this action there, she actually let down her guard a little bit, which let's face it is not an easy thing for most people to do. She let her guard down a little bit, and while we're all praising, oh my God, this was amazing, she refused pretty much all credit for it and gave the credit to the writing team, or excuse me, the art team, and said, no, this is the little bit that I wrote here, and I wrote pretty much make it look awesome or something to that effect. And they did. The artists just took it away, and they just ran away with it, and it was amazing. So, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who read this, and they saw all of this, and they said, oh, you see? She's not doing anything. She's just writing the bare minimum stuff, and then letting everybody else do it, but then she's taking all the credit for it. I'm pretty sure this was the exact opposite of taking credit for things, and two, this was one panel, or excuse me, not one panel, one page that she expressed, and this was literally her letting go of this page and saying, I'm going to leave this in your trustworthy hands. This is that bond that a writer and an artist have to have with each other in order to make an incredible story, a comic book story, because this is not some art piece that you're going to find in the Smithsonian where one person was involved in it. This is not some novel that one person, for the most part, wrote the whole thing. No, no, no. This is a combination. Comics are one of those rare things that, much like movies, you have more than one person working on it. And if one of those pieces isn't incongruency with the rest, then everything fails. How many times have you had a comic book where, oh, I really like the story, but the art sucks, or man, there's beautiful work, but I just can't read the book? Like, it happens all the time. And this is Carla trusting, and with very good reason, trusting Perry to do what he's doing. And it's great. And just because she showed one page where she says, I don't take any credit for this page, this is all the art team, she's not saying that she didn't do anything in the rest of the book. So it's a really weird juggling act that some people do to just hate on something. This, to me, is one of the best things that Marvel is putting out right now. And again, I've never heard of Carla Pacheco before this. You know what I'm saying? And Perry Perez has, for the most part, way too often been underappreciated, undervalued for too long. So I'm really happy that this book is out, that this title is out, and that the team is just like they work together so well, like a well-oiled machine. Yet, Professor, you said that you had a problem with the book. Well, when I started reading this issue and all the Counter-Earth stuff, I don't usually like to do edits to my stuff. The most edits I do are throw in some pictures that I found that Marvel released to people to put in their, their reviews and whatnot. So aside from those edits, I hate doing edits a lot of times. I've made the occasional exception for like a Kelly Thompson or for a Donny Cates before. I was going to do one for this one also. I was going to start off by saying like, oh, this comic book, hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, this book sucks and the art sucks and everything sucks. It's a horrible book. And then like fizzle it out and then reveal the real Professor Bill with like a different shirt and then saying, wow, that was Counter-Earth Bill. This is the real Bill. This book was great. And then just go into it and stuff. But the problem is I kept reading the book. And I got to admit, I got triggered. There's a bunch of people are going to say being triggered is weak. No, being triggered is part of PTSD. People with like soldiers, veterans, combat veterans who have PTSD get triggered. Go ahead. Say one of them are weak. Say one of them are weak around me. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to preface this by saying that everybody can get triggered by anything. You never know. It just depends on the deep-rooted psychological stuff, but some of the stuff is not just personal, it is universal. One of those things is, here we go, where some people are going to turn off the video right away. Bye, it was nice knowing you. Being okay with the beatings of men. Look, if I see Daredevil flying through and beating the crap out of every single villain that he's facing, then it happens. It's just something that you're reading. But when you see a woman doing it, it's different. Why is it different? Should it be different? Well, I don't know. If you have a guy beating up a guy, that's one thing. But if you have a guy in a comic book beating up a girl, a female, a woman, whatever, then you get that whole woman in a refrigerator thing, which is actually a comic book reference to Green Lantern Kyle Rayner when he found his girlfriend in a refrigerator dead. Too often that happens where it's okay for a woman to beat up on a man, not okay for a man to beat up on a woman. Listen, we see this stuff in comic books all the time, and for the most part, it doesn't bother anybody. For the most part, it doesn't bother anybody. Sometimes you get those Comicsgate goofs who just try to find a reason to hate on something because, Carol, SJW, yeah, just stop. Just stop. For the most part, these guys are in their own atmosphere at this point anyway, right? But then I read this comic book where it's just a little bit too off. It's too off. Now, I want to also mention that I don't believe that Carla Pacheco did this intentionally by any means at all. We all make mistakes. Every single one of us. We're all created to be perfectly fallible. That's just the way that we are. It's human nature. We're not perfect, And I do see this as an oversight, as her just having fun, because for the most part, the book is fun. And I think that most of us, this would be such an innocuous thing that nobody will pay attention to this. But I did say this was personal for me, right? Having these characters, it's one thing if it's Jessica Drew running around and beating up all these guys. And mind you, all these guys, not a single one of them are hostile to her. There's a part where they get shot at, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But aside from that, when they get close and personal, it's only males. And every single one of them, she is jumping and beating the living shit out of these guys. And each one, as the book progresses further, more and more, all of these guys are trying to be helpful. And each guy that she beats up is more helpful than the first one. I'm trying to help you. Stop beating me. The one guy's talking about, oh, I haven't heard from my family in a couple of days. These are all like they're being portrayed as really good people. So with her beating up on them, it's like, oh wow, this is funny because they're not actually a threat to her, but she's got the serum and it's making her crazy and all this. Yeah. And then there's Carol right next to her, and this is why I mentioned the Comic Skaters, because I'm probably going to be the first person to review this comic book in video format. I promise you, it's probably coming. Where they're all going to be like, and Carol is totally okay with it because the extinction of men. Morons talk about the extinction of men. You know what I'm saying? There is nobody more self-sufficient than men. Nobody. Like, there is no woman on the face of the planet who is as self-sufficient as a man. So we're not going to be freaking extinct. Just stop with that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? If the lights go out, if we resort back to the more primitive days, you know what I'm saying? Who's going to thrive? We're going to go back to the days where we're going to need that those other amendments. You know what I'm saying? Was it the 15th Amendment? We're going to need more Gloria Steinem to help the world out, because holy crap, it's going to get rough. It's going to get bad real quick. All that being said, when I see Jessica Drew beating the crap out of these good men who are trying to help out, and they're all men, and here she is with Carol, and not only is Carol not stopping her, for the most part she's not stopping her, she's actually helping at some points, glowing, making her fist glowy and getting ready to punch some guys also, and nobody's fighting back. Nobody's fighting back. They're saying, I want to help. So in general, yeah, the idea that it's okay for a woman to beat a man and not okay for a man to beat a woman it should be considered reprehensible. Unfortunately, and this is where I'm going to get a little personal, because mind you, in my years of teaching the martial arts, I spent 18 months teaching women's self-defense. This is a martial art that is or a martial art tactic specifically geared towards women to defend themselves against men, because men are stronger than women. There's some women who are stronger. Shut up. In general, men are stronger than women. It's known. Unfortunately, a lot of these women who have come, like maybe 2%, but it's a powerful 2% of these women, did what a lot of people do in regards to lawyers. They go to them after it's already too late. Many of these women came recognizing that this is something, women's self-defense is something that you do before something happens to you, hoping that something doesn't happen to you, helping to train you to recognize certain things so that these things don't happen to you. Some women come after something bad has happened to them, an abusive relationship or an actual rape. And I am not a psychologist. As much as I love psychology and I've read up on psychology a lot, I am not a trained psychologist. Especially back in the day when these things happened, I didn't know what to say to these women. And all of my fellow instructors, none of us knew what to say. Even the women, none of us knew what to say to these women. And when they came with their friends, these women who clearly had something horrible happen to them, it sucked. But when a man beats a woman, it's traumatic. When a woman beats a man, though, it's funny. I say that this is triggering for me because my first marriage was actually to a woman who was abusive. Now, again, this is anecdotal, but we also see the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation where all the evidence that we have is pointing to the idea that she was actually abusive to him. And yet he can't win a deposition against the London Sun, where most of the time celebrities win these things handedly because it involves abuse of a man towards a woman, and nobody will believe that a woman can beat a man. Nobody will freaking believe it, except a lot of the wrong crowd. But it does happen. I'm 6'5", 260 pounds, former infantry soldier in the U.S. Army with martial arts training since I was 8. I'd like to say I'm a fairly tough guy. I grew up in Jersey. I've probably had more fights than your average person who's not from New York City and New Jersey. You know what I'm saying? I revel in how physical I can still, at 45 years old, get. I am, wow, like I love that I can still wrestle and tumble with my sons and show them, like, let's go out and play some baseball, and boom, and I can still hit it. Like, I'm saying. And yet, I was actually abused by my former wife, and I couldn't win a court case against her to save my life. She simply has to mention military. Plus, it doesn't help that she's 5'3" and I'm 6'5", and it's like when I say, actually, I never laid a hand on her. Anytime the police were involved, no marks on her, plenty of marks on me. Couldn't get a cop to believe me, though. Couldn't get a cop to care. Instead, it was, you need to stop beating your husband, all right? Just stop. And then a lot of times I would get those looks like, dude, don't be a pussy. I'm not a pussy. First off, cops, fuck you. None of you guys know how to be men like freaking soldiers. What do? You come after the freaking problem, whatnot. We run headlong into it. Us and firefighters, we're the real freaking troopers out there. Cops, bite me. Anyway, if you're a cop and you're triggered by this, don't call men pussies for freaking not wanting to hit their women. Because if I ever did hit my wife, guess what would happen? Instantly in jail. And that could just be for defending myself. Hell, if I blocked one of her freaking swings too hard and she got red on the freaking arm, guess what would have happened to me? Jail time. No, it's not cool. I've put up with physical and verbal abuse, and therefore a whole lot of mental also. This is the first time I've talked about it in passing before and never really want to get into it before, but this has to be known. This is something that does have to be known. Women beat the shit. Like, how many times? Listen to Bill Burr's comedy, because he's speaking truth. There are women who will get in the face of a man, and they know, you're not going to hit me. Men aren't allowed to hit women. When I was a kid oh my God. When I was a kid, I'm literally just remembering this. Besides all the other times when, you're not allowed to hit me. I'm a girl. Okay, but that doesn't mean you can hit me. Stop. People shouldn't hit each other. Stop hitting us. Stop hitting me. There was a girl who I remember, there was these 3 girls walking. She was one of them. And the one girl screamed something rude to me as they were walking and I was riding my bike. And as I'm riding away, I flipped her off and then kept on riding. The other girl got hardly triggered by it majorly. I forgot. I never even met her before. She was new. And she just got so pissed off that she approached me in the lunchroom at school. This was in 7th grade. 8th grade. This was in 8th grade. And just like, you did such and such and such and blah, 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 and that's messed up. Like, I don't remember you. I genuinely didn't remember her. It wasn't until much later that she stopped yelling, and I was like, oh, you were with her? Oh, yeah, okay. Did you say anything? Well, then it wasn't towards you. She caught me getting off the bus the one time. Caught me getting off of the bus the one time. And apparently she talked to a lot of people because there was a big crowd that wanted to watch this. You know how it is. Fight, fight, fight. God. It's one thing to be a kid. It's another thing to be immature. Anyway. And this girl coming up and screaming at me and yelling at me in the crowd, like I couldn't go anywhere. Like, what am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? And she's just, yelling at me. It's like, you stuck up your middle finger at me. And that's fucked. And it's like, I don't know you. I've never seen you before. Like, I was riding my bike. You're a blurred face. I don't know you. Like, I couldn't remember to save my life. She ended the thing with, you stuck up your middle finger at me. Now I'm going to shove my middle finger up your ass. And she came at me like she was definitely going to hit me. And all I could think of was, am I going to stand here? Like, it's bad enough that all these guys are guys and girls are all laughing at me. Dude, laughing at me. How publicly humiliating that is. We're not supposed to make fun of girls or the way they look or blah, 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 whatever. But this is okay. This is apparently okay. And I just have to stand there and take it because I don't know what else to do. Boys are told, don't you ever hit a girl. But we're not told what happens when shit like this happens. It's just, do we need to have classes on this? They want to have classes to say, boys, don't rape girls. I think most guys know that. This, I don't think most girls know. And when she finally came at me, what was I able to do? This big, dopey, weak guy barreled through the only group of guys that were actually clustered together. This huge freaking guy, I barreled through these guys to run over to the convenience store over here by where we near enough to where we lived, and I stood in there for about an hour, until and at first they're just like, you're trying to get out of a fight like this, and then they realize you didn't want to fight a girl. All right, you're a real man. This was the stuff, this was adults, women, who actually made me feel better about the idea that I just ran from a fight. Me. Dude, stuff like this is what I'm talking about. Nobody thought that was out of the ordinary. Everybody thought that was entertaining. Everybody thinks stuff like that's okay, but it's not. It's not. And if I would have defended myself against her, when she would have come after me, I was 13 years old. I'd already been in the martial arts for like 5-6 years, and I was really, really good. I could have moved and tripped her, had her bust her face on the freaking pavement. That would have taught her real well. You know what else it would have done? Would have probably sent me to juvie. I couldn't. What is I going to hold her? And then, oh, you're restraining her from scratching my eyes out or punching me. Like, it's never okay. Look, if you stayed long enough for this, I really hope that enough people understand. As much as I loved everything, including the writing style of the book, garbage like this is not acceptable. It's simply not. It is not okay for a woman to beat up a guy. And this was just, again, I don't think that it was meant to be the case. I genuinely don't believe that Carla Pacheco thinks it's okay to beat up on guys. But sometimes we do things that we don't mean. If I say the word retard, there's somebody who's going to get offended. It's like, I'm not trying to offend your sister or anybody that you know. I'm actually trying to offend this person who should know better. And I didn't mean for it to be, oops, I made a mistake. I didn't mean it. I can apologize for that. I'm not here for an apology. I simply want us to all be a little bit better. It's not even necessarily about ableisms, so to speak. It's just about we need to recognize that some things aren't okay. And this, if you thought that this was perfectly fine, it's cool. It's cool with me. It might also be part of the problem. Who knows? We're at that point in society where, how Rome started to get super philosophical and then it crumbled? Maybe that's just where we're at right now. Anyway, this is my feelings on the book. I hated all of the good things about this book. Couldn't help me to stop from hating on this one aspect because, again, it was very personal to me. That being said, if it doesn't mean anything to you, if you thought it was funny and whatnot, cool. We're guys. We'll get over it. I know a lot of times, even I'll make fun of myself whenever, girl power. Psh, of course there's girl power. Men don't evolve past toilet training, for crying out loud. That's like the big accomplishment in our life. It's always fun to make fun of guys, including when you're a guy. It's cool. Unfortunately, there are people who take it too far. And I'm somebody who had it taken too far on them. So 8.5 years of a really bad marriage where I kept on thinking the whole time, I'm the problem. You know why? Because I was gaslighted also. Yeah, guys aren't the only ones who gaslight. It's not a gender thing. It's just a thing. Anyway, guys, societally, we have to be better as people. And as good as this comic book was, including in the writing, the the overall theme of the book, I really hated it. Everything else, it was good. Tell me what you think below. Yeah, talk to you later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.